Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the virtual Watkins Glen International for tonight's coverage of the FTF Racing League Grand National Series, presented by Splash and Go Graphics, live on Podium Esports, as well as on STN Racing. Thank you for tuning in for tonight's coverage for this evening's action from New York State. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me is my colleague Blake McCandless. Our producer Ryan Bauer is down in the production trailer, powered by Top Flight Computers. An interesting race tonight on the docket. Just 3 races left until the postseason, and lots of pressure for lots of these drivers entering tonight to try and get victories to lock themselves in, as well as for many others to make sure they're in the right amount of points totals gathered in the season to get above the cut line to get in the playoffs on victories without the points factoring in.
No, there's certainly a big scramble, and you really have to think of how things shake up here. You have Dylan Alt, who comes out with the win last week, so now he's locked into the playoffs with just a couple of weeks left to go. And you look right around that bubble line, that battle between Ryan Naraki and Sean Butler. Just 8 points separate the two and only 3 races left to go. You have a road course here. You have a couple different tracks coming up. So that battle right there, that 12th and final playoff spot is going to be something we're going to have to watch these next couple of weeks.
And the way to break things down, you see, drivers have won races this season. The top 12 make the postseason. Justice, Reynolds, Mercurio, Michael Frisch, Dylan Alt, and Michael Cozy Jr. are all locked in and have met the start requirement and can't mathematically fall outside the top 25 eligibility line by the end of the regular season. Kane Cook and Brandon Hawken, however, are both around that spot, around 26, and still have to lock themselves in on points. While a couple drivers who are currently in the playoffs, like we've seen, like Julian, like Naraki, are currently in the playoffs on points, but are not far ahead for the first car outside the postseason to be locked in quite yet. These drivers are all set to go from Watkins Glen International, a track that opened as a part-time facility and with the streets in the 1940s. Became a public and permanent facility in the 1950s. 8 total turns with this facility without the boot. 2.43 miles in Watkins Glen, New York, a historic racetrack for a lot of these competitors.
It really is a special racetrack, and you have to think it's one that a lot of these iRacers have had a lot of experience with. Over the years, you think about Watkins Glen has been a staple on iRacing. We've had this same configuration for quite a while now, so you see even the rumble strips and whatnot that these drivers have had, again, so much time here on the sim to get used to. So this is where you're going to see guys like Blake Reynolds that you're following along on your screen right now. Already multiple wins this season in this series. He and Derek Justice have just dominated this series. Both those drivers combined have won 12 of the races so far, and we know how strong Reynolds is on these road courses. I know Justice has been running the Arkham Menards cars here that are running at Watkins Glen this week in the iRacing official series side of things. So you just have a lot of big names that are going to come out here, and obviously Reynolds performed well in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race at the Daytona Road Course. He's somebody that takes well to turning left and turning right. I'm sure he'll put another strong performance up tonight.
Also won, by the way, in ERL competition on Wednesday on Podium Esports in that race at the Daytona Road Course. So a strong road course driver, currently 23rd on the pylon. Here's the onboard with Derek Justice. Once again, this is the third to last race of the regular season. It's talked about with the bumpy Daytona International Speedway, the 2007 version, and Darlington on the docket. And for those tracks, you don't want to have to rely on them if you're good, especially on a road course, to block yourself into the playoffs.
No, you don't want to have to. I think of a lot of drivers that have, built up a pretty considerable cushion right now. Guys like David Schildhaus that are well above that point cut line that they need to get into the playoffs. And I know I was even just chatting with him a little bit before this race started, and he was talking about struggling through this race. Obviously, 22nd right now of 26 drivers that have been able to put down a qualifying time. But he's one of those drivers that, he doesn't have to run as strong tonight. He can sit back on the strong and consistent season that he's had so far to try to get into the playoffs, and tonight's just going to be one of those nights you have to battle through and just get what you can.
Looking on board, this is Philip Kraus, who's yet to set a time, only 26 or so seconds left in qualifying. 30 drivers have set times so far on the board. It's a massive field, Blake. 47 drivers have turned out for this race tonight.
Oh, and that's one thing that is a staple or becoming a staple to FTF here in the Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics is, you know, the car counts, and not only that they've had, but that they continue to have, even as the playoffs approach. You think a lot of times as the playoffs approach, guys think they maybe don't have a shot and they'll just, well, exit. Well, instead we have, at least I have 47 cars on the grid listed to start this one, so it should make it interesting on pit road.
With that qualifying is wrapped up, and Blake Reynolds has set the pole time, a 1:10.707, with Brandon Hawkins, the road course rainer, known for his experience with Rebuttal Sim Racing, rounding out the front row. Derek Justice starts in third, a 10th off the pole. Brian Mercurio, one of the top drivers in the road to pro standings for Lowline Racing, in fourth. Dylan Hart starts in fifth, while Sean Butler's in P6. Michael Cozy Jr. starts in seventh, with Tyler Gary right now in P8 on the qualifying charts. Bill Krause starts in ninth, and Nate Storr rounds out your top 10.
11th will be Dylan Smith, who has worked his way over from the NR 2003 side of things to finally kind of rough things up with these guys in iRacing. He'll roll off from 11th. 12th will be Evan Rice. 13th will be Gary Waterworth. 14th goes to Keith Sherman. 15th to Chris Wett. 16th to Jake Poulin. 17th is Rich Jameson. 18th is Cosmin Yanishu. 19th is Casey Nimitz. And 20th will be Arnold Columbia.
Elliot Henderson deep in the field in 21st, Travis Brown 22nd, Roswell Harlow in 23rd, Evan Brinker 24th, Kyle Riley in 25th, Ryan Nacio in 26th, Jonathan Almeri in 27th, David Schildhaus very deep in the field, 3 seconds plus off the pole in P28, Rodney up the top 30, Robert Dorman and Justin Malillo.
Benjamin Fanning roll off from 31st, and then a couple of drivers that experienced some issues during their qualifying laps. Warren Rosario, Michael Frisch, and Tristan Hagenston didn't even run 1 minute 20-second lap time, so you have to think there were some issues there. And then obviously you had the rest of these drivers that either elected not to pull a time intentionally or, you know, just ran off the course and were not able to score an official time. Kane Cook in 35th, Andrew Schwartz 36th, Ryan Williams 37th, Adam Cadola in 38th, 39th is Max Brady, 40th Mike Campbell, 41st Ryan Naraki, 42nd Franklin Ash, 43rd will go to Andy Margot, 44th Daniel Day, 45th Ethan Murkey, and all the way back here, Justin, 46th, and then starting from row 24, because we have 24 rows today, will be Craig Hawkins, who rounds out this field.
He's going to have his work cut out for him, let's put it that way, as the cars now roll off at one full pace lap for today. It is the default iRacing day, May 15, 2020, just past 2 p.m. in sim time. Track distance, 3.4 total miles, 5.43 kilometers, 8 turns without the boot at this racetrack facility. 50 laps are on the docket. That's about 170 miles, 298.65 kilometers is that distance. And a couple of key points to bring up. There are cautions, but it's an honor system caution system tonight, Blake, not the in-sim service system for this evening. These drivers will run on a cool racetrack, 97 degrees Fahrenheit, the track temp 79, the air temp.
And that's going to be key for these drivers, because you think about these road courses and how important it is, particularly in the stock cars here on iRacing, to conserve your rear tire. So these drivers are going to be pretty thankful that the track temperature is all the way down at 97 degrees. We're even getting a little bit of cloud cover right now as you see them continue to work their pacing laps. Just in, though, one driver will be forced to do a pass-through penalty once we take the green flag. That's the 52 of Benjamin Fanning, who's going to have to roll on through here on the start. But he has a competition caution to look forward to on lap 15, so if he can at least keep it on the lead lap, hopefully he won't have to go a lap down early on in this one.
Yeah, the reason why there was the penalty, by the way, for Fanning was he did not stop during the drivers' meeting. After several dozen attempts for him to pull over to the side of the racetrack for said meeting, he'll have to sacrifice a lot of track position. He was scheduled to start in 31st position for this evening's event. But just about all set to go for tonight's action from Watkins Glen. The 24th race out of 33 on the campaign for the FTF Racing League Grand National Series, presented by Splash and Go Graphics. Blake Reynolds in control of the field in the Coca-Cola Cherry Machine. Pace car dives its way off to the restart zone. They go. Green flag is out. We're underway from Watkins Glen.
You already see back in the pack, 3 wide, 3 or 4 rows deep. Oh, there's going to be one car around. It's the 0-3 machine here on the entrance of turn number 1, or exit of turn number 1, rather. He gets turned around, and that is Casey Nimitz, who has already pulled off the racetrack. No, he's going to get back on there, but already, Justin, we saw heavy, a lot of aggressive moves being made here. 3 wide, even through the S's here.
That's very sketchy, to say the very least. Much of the front of the field is single filed out for now. But that craziness he mentioned is about 11th, 15th, 20th on back. A couple cars are spinning in the dog leg right now. In the bus stop, rather. The 63 Appendicino amongst some of the air drivers involved. They've been able to get back going, though. Several drivers have lost several positions as a result as we look on board with Justice.
And that was an incident between the 63 and the 20 at David Schoedhaus, as it looked like the 20 machine got in there just a little bit hot going into the bus stop, but we continue to sort things out. We are mostly single file throughout the field, and now looking forward to completing lap 1. Brandon Hawkins looking for a piece of the lead to the inside of Blake Reynolds.
How do I make it up at the front of the field, as you've seen on board with Gary the Snail? Top 3, though, all single file, covered by just a couple tenths of a second in the battle for the time being. We already have one driver who's pulled off the racetrack, Nate Stewart, who started inside the top 10. 2 drivers did not start, Adam Goodell, Steve Rada. For tonight's actions, we will look on board with Dylan Alt. Dylan Alt, quietly a very impressive driver. His road course racing skills are actually very decent based on experiences in official races played.
Oh, certainly so, and that experience really helps, even if it is in a different vehicle. Being able to just run a lot of laps at the same racetrack, the bumps become more familiar, your braking points, just where you need to put the car, even if it is a bit of a different vehicle, they're still similar enough that that experience, I think, will come into play tonight.
Still staying single file for the time being. Top 10 have relatively stayed in their same positions right now. For a race such as this, what are your keys to try and win at this track, especially with a couple factors? The competition caution, but as well, the potential of 3 sets of tires to think about, as David Schoedhaus had some troubles in the air loop and is still losing time. On the racetrack, several drivers in trouble in front of him. Rich Jameson bringing up that smoke. You see, he's stuck on the side of the track. Caution is out on the racetrack for the first time.
And again, these are going to be manual cautions, so you'll see the field slow itself down as there's enough trouble there and enough track blocking to warrant a caution flag being thrown. We'll have to see, and I don't believe this will be the competition caution or anywhere close to it. But lucky for the 52 of Benjamin Fanning, he gets to stay on the lead lap because of that, as well as a couple of drivers. But we can go ahead and take a look at exactly what happened here, riding on board with the 86 of Rich Jameson, who looks like he may have some pretty significant damage on his Ford Mustang. You see, heading right here to the final turn here at Watkins Glen, this slow, winding right-hander. Oh, and he just gets way too hot in the center of the corner. They're already wrecking in front of him, and then just gets stuck in the wall right there. The wall just grabs him and unfortunately is tearing up the nose of that Mustang, and Rich Jameson going to have to take a long tow to pit road, and that 86 car is pretty beat up after that.
See a couple other drivers also involved there in the bumping and baiting, losing track position as a result. 2-3 cars in total with significant damage from that caution flag. And that's Columbia, who sputtered around, locked it up, was okay, then the car tried to go low.
You see that it just didn't work out for them. And again, Justin, you were going to ask me, like, what are you thinking about how to get through this race early on? Looking forward to the competition caution, the one thing you don't want to do is make a mistake. You can go out there, feel things out, try to improve your track position. But there you see the 35. He gets a significant amount of damage out of that. And again, it's just so early in this race. Looks like a car up there bounces off the rumble strips. 39 just loses it of Arnold Columbia. He gets tagged. Heavy damage on that machine that tags him as well. So you're just looking to not make mistakes here and just get to that competition yellow, see what your tires are like, what your fuel mileage is going to look like at the end of this thing. As you see, Cosman just not able to get through there in the Splash & Go graphics machine.
Not a good start to the race for the Nexus machine. Just in the prior complex of corners off turn 9. Starting to get really squirrely and off in the grass. Several drivers have elected to pit under this caution flag. Chris Wetz, Cosman Yoshino, Arnold Columbia, David Schildhouse, Ryan Williams, Robert Dorman among the drivers who have sacrificed track position to take their first set of tires after only a couple laps played.
And this is going to be a really interesting call because they know that certain, we're going to have a stopping point in this race, and they're banking on the fact that maybe there's not going to be as many cautions later in this race. That's really the only thing that I think it can come down to is the fact that, you can come down, get your tires right now. You'll obviously take tires at the competition yellow, and then you'll make your one pit stop here, potentially to the end of this thing if we go lap 15 to 35 or so green to the end. But, we've already seen a lot of calamity here in these early stages. I just don't know if it's worth the risk of, already cutting out a set of tires this early on. And plus, you got to think you only ran 2 or 3 laps on these tires, so there's not too significant wear on them right now.
100% on that point as we still stay pacing, coming to 46 to go. Should note that a couple drivers did just top off. Williams, Hagenstein, Dorman among those drivers. Jonathan Palmieri, I should rather say, also topped off. But Schildhouse took 27 seconds to fix his car. Schwartz 16 seconds. Brady took tires. Campbell took tires. And Hawkins took tires. We talked about it before the start of the race, Blake. Fuel mileage could be tight even with the competition caution here. Drivers have been known to try and stretch to about 33 laps here at Watkins Glen.
And that's kind of the limit that these guys are really looking at. And of course, you think about, we'll probably go green after that competition caution with about 33 laps to go. So you're really putting these drivers in an interesting situation on whether they want to try and save fuel to make it to the end, or, with the significant tire fall off you have here, if you want to try and make it on one stop. And it'll just be interesting to see, because I think, obviously our race leaders will do one thing, but I think, certain guys back in the field, different strategy could work for them. So it certainly could shake things up here.
Restart coming this time by as Reynolds in control of the field. Restart zone starts at the barrels for tonight, and Hawkins trying to jump them. Reynolds backs them up. Hawkins gets bump drafted by Alt up the racetrack to start things off again, back on her way with 46 to go.
And already some huge sins being put in here into turn 1. Contact between the 01 and the 37 back in the field. They somehow find a way to sort it out as once again.
Big pile up in the back of the field. Caution flag is out. Massive crash. Columbia involved. Palmieri involved. Just about everyone who pit is involved. Ash also involved in the racetrack early on as everyone slows down. At least 5-6 drivers involved in a track blocker into turn 1.
And not to mention that the call out for the caution surprised a couple of these drivers. So you didn't necessarily have a spin, but you did have some issues happening here at the front of the field because of the checkup for the caution through the S's. Some people didn't slow down, so a couple of guys got some damage on the nose of their race cars. But there you see, driver gets off. I believe they're just pushing them into one. You see Justin Malillo, heavy damage on his machine, actually gets put up into the air right there, as we'll even see a view from high above this Watkins Glen International. You see just a bunch of drivers checking up. They're 4 wide in the middle of the field. That doesn't work. They end up wrecking behind, and again, just trying to sort things out. I'm surprised at the aggressiveness that we're seeing this early, Justin. It just doesn't make much sense when you have a competition yellow to look forward to. And there you see Malillo. I'm not sure if he got tagged from behind, but he obviously hits the car in front of him.
Yeah, the track getting blocked is not a good sign either of things are going to go well in turn 1, especially known for going 2-3 wide. The driver's right behind. Nowhere to go, as you see right there, Malillo. Locks it up, thinks he's okay. There it goes, 3-4 cars crashing in.
Yeah, and it didn't look like he got help from behind. He just had a different braking point than the driver in front of him. And there you see Jonathan Palmieri, heavy damage on his number 2 Chevrolet. And he thought he had an avenue to try to get through there, but just didn't seem to work. And again, it's so tough because look in front of him, you don't see anything. There's just 3 wide everywhere. And all of a sudden, before you know anything's happening, you see a little smoke, and all of a sudden there's just a car sitting there. You got the 20 next to you. You're not trying to hit. There's nowhere to go for Palermo right there, because you just can't see when you're heading downhill here. They're 3 or 4 wide in front of you. You just can't see in front of you.
Car selecting a pit for obvious reasons. Schwartz, Pullen, Ash, as well as Warren Rosario involved. One to go this time by as well on the racetrack. This year, let's take a look at the upcoming events. This upcoming Sunday, the Game Works Racing League heads to Bristol Motor Speedway. Action starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Podium Esports' Twitch channel. On Monday, that's also the source for the Sim 500 Trans-Service Cup Series as they go to the concrete confines of Dover. Coverage starts Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. On Wednesday, it's a doubleheader starting with the Esports Racing League as they go to Worldwide Technology Raceway, also known as Gateway. That race is on August 19th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/ERL_racing. That's also where, just moments after, you can find the Cars Esport Tour as they go to the Paperclip Martinsville Speedway. That coverage starts right after ERL coverage, twitch.tv/Podium Esports. And don't forget, in between that, the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro Series heads to the Lone Star State, Texas Motor Speedway. Several of the drivers you see in this series tonight will look to lock themselves in to the winter qualifiers for a chance to go to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Coverage starts Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern on Podium Esports. A lot to look forward to say the very least, in the next few days here, Blake, but one to go this time by as drivers get ready to double them up. Your thoughts so far is we're still not yet even to the competition yellow. We went 2 cautions.
Well, I was about to say, now you're going to have a real sprint to this competition yellow. A lot of those drivers that came down pit road that last time, they were involved in that caution. So I just think that reiterates my point that just coming down there was a big risk, and there's just not a lot of payoff with it. You lose all that track position, you're in the back of the field, and obviously we've had some issues sorting things out here, to say the least, early on. So looks good for our top 5 or so. They've obviously been very quick, been able to scurry away, but right now you do not want to be around 20th, 25th, 30th. That's a dangerous spot to be on this racetrack right now. And to think, we still have over 43 cars on the racetrack right now, so it's a full racetrack, not a whole lot of places to go.
Of note, Adam Cadol missed the start. We mentioned he did not take the green flag, got the lucky dog last time by. He's now inside the top 40. Reynolds with the late restart once again. Green flag is out, 44 to go this time by.
And Reynolds is able to scoot away, as you'll see, 2 wide behind them between Brandon Hawken and Derek Justice, as Reynolds a big shot there off the curbing. Are they going to be able to sort it through in the back of the pack through turns 1? It looks like it right now as they fanned out 3 wide, but they seem to have sorted things out here by the time they reach these S's.
Most of the field is single file themselves out as you look right now at the train. This is behind Mercurial Tower Gary, quietly inside the top 6 on the racetrack. Up the road, though, Justice had to play defense. Here's the look on board for Gary as he tries to go to the bus stop. Hitting the curbs hard in the inner loop.
Hitting the curbs hard, and that's what you're going to see a lot of these drivers who have really figured out this racetrack well, especially there through the bus stop. Try to maximize your speed, keep the car as straight as possible. And obviously here you can use a lot of that curving there, those rumble strips, to try and go as quickly as possible. And you see once again Derek Justice pulling up to the back of Reynolds, but they're just so even, Justin. We're gonna have to see who's able to save their tires as they both into the rumble strips. Justice gets loose. That's gonna allow Brandon Hawken to look to the inside.
Here's Justice now on the high side. Below him, Hawken. Better braking for Hawken as he goes down through the gears. Move Brandon Hawken back to second as they go through the tire smoke of Reynolds. And there's that skill coming in once again for the road course racing. As we talked about a little bit before with the Remembering Bob Bear 250, Hawken a part of Movado Sim Racing outside of this series and known for his ability to race in the Miatas, in the Mazda MX-5 in several different races.
Well, you mentioned his road course experience, but again, I've known Brandon Hawken. I've seen him in more oval races when I've raced with him, whether it's on iRacing, whether it's on NASCAR Racing 2003 season, and it doesn't seem to matter whether it's a road course, whether it's an oval. Brandon Hawken knows how to go fast.
Dylan Smith has spun out of the inner loop, and he's got nowhere to go. Stuck on the side of the racetrack. That's the one car you've seen there without a front clip. Everyone else has been able to get by cleanly, but Smith has now lost a lot of time. To 40th he goes after a mistake from the top 10.
Well, not only has he lost a lot of time, he's lost the entire front section of his race car, and that is some significant damage that is going to hinder his ability to maybe potentially even finish this race. And I think this is a solo car incident. You see aggressively using the curbing, and the nose just gets pointed to the outside wall. He comes off the curbing, has the nose pointed to the outside wall. We'll get a really good onboard shot right here. Seems to get in smooth under braking. Hits the beginning of the inner loop exactly how you want it. He just clips the grass right there at the left front, and that's just enough to upset the car a little bit. And once the nose gets pointed that direction, that wall is so sudden, you're carrying so much speed, it's very difficult to point it off the wall. And I think for Smith, that's going to be some terminal damage for him.
Yeah, he's already ducked straight to the pit lane as well after the damage. Also of note, on that same lap, Jake Bullen ended up crashing in the S's, got stuck in the catch fence. He has now put his car on the tow truck. Looking at the battle for the race lead, though, the top two have gotten some space from Derek Justice, but just behind this ice cream machine, Brian Mercurio is also joining the fight. The top four are the quickest cars on the racetrack by at least a few tenths of a second.
Well, Brian Mercurio is somebody that has won multiple times in the Verizon Cup Series back in some of the older sims that this league has run from time to time, and obviously Mercurio has been awfully strong on these road courses here at FTF this season, and he's really kind of a part of, you always hear about the big three. I would say here at FTF, as far as the road courses are concerned, it's really the big five. You have Blake Reynolds, Brandon Hawk, and Derek Justice, Brian Mercurio, and maybe you could throw in a couple other drivers here. I think we'll see Kane Cook up here very momentarily. He's already in the top 10 after starting in 35th.
You're looking, meanwhile, at David Schildhouse, who's in 26th. It's been a rough race for him so far on the road course. He's trying to get away from the carnage he's seen behind, but Schildhouse, part of Burton Klugerman Esports, and part of its signings, also as a part of a Road to Pro campaign with the Technical Alliance with Flip Angle Motorsports. Having an okay race so far, keeping the car clean, now up to 25th.
Well, he's done a decent job after recovering, but I just think that damage is going to be too much to overcome. As we see here, Travis Brown a little bit further up in the field doing a nice job here trying to just navigate his way through these corners. And again, I think this is really when these drivers, once they get single filed out, you get a little separation in them. Now I think you're just riding around. You're looking to gain a little track position if you can, but we have about 5 laps until the competition caution is going to be thrown. So you don't want to do anything too aggressive, but if you're somebody like Ryan Naraki, you may have to. You talked about the points difference right now, 8 points separating Sean Butler and Ryan Naraki, who's in, Butler who's out. Well, Butler's running up in the 7th position right now. Naraki's in 19th. So right now, that would put Butler in the playoffs right now. So Butler doing a nice job here, started in 6th, is still running up there near the 7th position, and Naraki's having to get on his high horse because he obviously doesn't need to give up that many points to put Butler in with just a couple races left.
And don't forget, Butler is well part of that Road to Pro campaign for Total Advantage Motorsports as we look on board with Windbound Racing. So far, the streamer in P9, he got moved out of the way for about 7th spot by Butler. Since then, has been able to keep it calm in a single file line. But look who's behind him. Kane Cook, 25 positions gained as Dylan Alt lets them on by.
And Alt is going to allow these drivers to go on by. Not sure if this is a tire strategy play or perhaps a self-assessed penalty, if you will, but no surprise here. Kane Cook started in the back and was able to avoid some of those accidents, gained a lot of track position through there. And then, of course, we know that he has been awfully strong in the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics this season. 2 wins on the year despite never really taking a qualifying time. As you see, he's going to go on the outside here of Michael Cozy to try to make his way by. So he power moved by Kane Cook. He moves into 8th.
An incredible drive to the field so far now, plus 27 for Kane Cook. Had a really solid performance at the Daytona Road Course on Tuesday in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And now Cozy continues to drop back up at the front of the field. Brandon Hawkins still within a couple tenths of Blake Reynolds. They've now pulled away from Justice Mercurio, though. So fairly tight between these two. These two have been some of the quicker cars long run, while Mercurio, he's dancing around the corners coming towards the competition caution.
And you see there all that wheel input that was on your screen a couple of moments ago, and that's exactly what we're talking about when we say rear tire spin. We'll get a good look here. Heading into turn 1, downshifting through the gears. and it seems like he's going to get through this one pretty smooth, but when that wheel turns to the left just a little bit, that's him fighting those rear tires, having to fight to get back to the throttle. And obviously Mercurio, he's riding right behind the leaders. He's in fourth, but that's something that's so important for these guys. You see a little slip right there through the S's, but you got to keep the throttle down through there if you want some speed. Here comes Hawkin to the inside looking for the race lead, but he'll back out of it.
Not close enough to try and make the dive realistically in an air loop, but we have strategy calls. Next time by, the pit road closes for the stage caution. Columbia and Rocky have elected to come down and pit and take a bit of strategy to try and jump up in front of the field. We'll see if anyone tries to follow suit before Reynolds crosses the stripe in this lead pack like someone say Justice.
And I think this is a smart move for these guys. You think about the track position that you're looking to gain, and I've raced with Ryan Naraki a long time. If there's one thing he is willing to do, he is willing to think outside the box when it comes to pit road strategy. And if they flip it right here perfectly, they're going to restart at the front of this field with, I'll just call it, one lap old tires that I'm sure they're just feathering around the course anyway. So again, Naraki, Columbia, two each that will try to get that track position. So I think it's smart for a driver that was running back around the 20th position. As you see, he's not even going to take the bus stop here. He's trying to save those tires as much as possible.
And then, strange decision. That's obviously slow down, as that's Ethan Murkey that's crashed along the safer barrier in the Armco, by the way. That was after the exit of the inner loop. But expecting the competition yellow this time by top three under a blanket as Hawkin lets it all hang out in the corner, and they still have to try and get around a couple of the drivers. Murkey has been able to get out of the way.
Murkey trying to get out of the way, and some drivers kind of yelling at him to get out of the way. The other thing that I think was of note there, Justin, I believe I heard it in the drivers' meeting, that if something were to happen, if you were to completely miss the bus stop, that you would have to come to a complete stop to serve your penalty, kind of like they do in real life. And Ryan Naraki didn't come to a stop right there, so I'm interested to see if that's something that just kind of flies under the radar. I know he's trying to do all he can just to save those tires. All he has to do is stay on the lead lap here and get that caution, and he'll cycle himself out to the lead. But I believe my ears don't deceive me. We'll see. He comes out of the S's right now. We'll see if he takes the inner loop or if he does it again. And let's see. He's not going to slow down. He's going to cut through it again. And this is interesting, Justin, because I believe I heard correctly. If you could blow through the bus stop, you're going to have to stop. And that's the second time he has yet to do that.
Yeah, that may be something looked at potentially if that's the case. Now, keep in mind as well, though, that he can also not even cycle to the lead if he's too far back. And that's, I think, also why he's taking the iRacing slowdown penalties there. He's about 59 seconds or so, give or take, behind the rest of the field. He's lost time. Skipping the bus stop, by the way, an extra 3 seconds with the slowdown. So, in other words, if he's too far back from the rest of the pack, he's not going to have a shot to be up at the front of the competition yellow. Hawkin wants to be up at the front at that yellow. Cut off to the inside. Reynolds holding on for the time being. The Coca-Cola cherry machine looks to break the draft, and a lap 15 this time by. Competition caution is out. Hawkins second, Justice, Mercurio, Taragari, Kraus, Cook, Cozy Jr., Butler, and all inside the top 10.
And again, an impressive drive there by Kane Cook. Started in 35th, got up to 7th. I know we've looked at our top 4, but I think we're going to really have to look at that Renegades Ford to be strong towards the end of this race.
Remember, the drivers to think about in the strategy card are Naraki and Columbia, who are still having to catch a lot of time here. The pace laps under this caution were explained at 50 miles an hour. Pit road will open this upcoming time by, but that will take a step aside. 35 laps to go, coming to 34. You're watching Podium Esports and SDN Racing for coverage of the FTF Grand National Series, presented by Splash and Go Graphics. Welcome back to SDN Racing and Podium Esports for coverage of the FTF Grand National Series. Tonight's coverage presented by TheRacingExperts.com, your place for NASCAR, eNASCAR, and other motorsports news. Visit www.racingexperts.com today. Drivers have just visited pit road for their service, and the strategy card, as to be expected, was played by several of the drivers you see on the right side of your screen. Kyle Riley, Ryan Naraki, Arnold Columbia among the drivers who stay out here, as well as some of the modified class machines, while everybody else elected to come down and pit for 4 tires and fuel, Blake.
Well, we think about it. I think it's a great strategy call. It's a great opportunity for a lot of these drivers to run up front. But Justin Prince, I don't know if you happen to watch the NASCAR Xfinity race that took place earlier today, and we saw a couple of drivers stay out. That were at the back of the field, and let's just say it didn't work out in that race. So I'm wondering if that's going to be somewhat similar to what we see here, that yes, these guys are able to flip their track position, they'll be at the front, but obviously, you know, Blake Reynolds, Brandon Hawk, and all these guys that have had clean air and just been battling it out amongst themselves, they're going to want to get by these guys really quickly, and so if they're aggressive up front, you know, we could see another track blocker here.
And as we continue to crawl at 30 miles an hour right here, keep in mind that incident you're referring to today in what was a hectic Daytona road course race, and the first one, mind you, for a top 3 level NASCAR sanctioned race in a long time. Keep in mind the last time NASCAR before this weekend hosted a race on that road course was 1976 with modified races. How do you play this now for a lot of these drivers in this race here at Watkins Glen, knowing what may happen in real life, as we've seen, and what they know could happen based on their sim experience at this track?
Well, again, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I know for a lot of these guys, you just have to get by traffic that you don't want to be behind as quickly as possible. I know that may play into the chaos a little bit, but if, you know, your Reynolds, your Hawken, your Justice that have been so even on speed throughout this thing, whoever's able to get by this traffic quickly is going to emerge with the race lead and have a significant advantage. I mean, golly, you look at Andrew Schwartz right there. He doesn't have a nose on his machine. He's all damaged. You don't want to be in his lane, and if you do, again, you're just giving up a lot of time for the last stint for this race if we're able to go green all the way to the end. That's a crinkled can of Mountain Dew Code Red right there that Andrew Schwartz is driving around with. So you want to get around that as absolutely fast as possible. And it's just, depending on who's going to be able to get through traffic, that's going to set us up here for who's going to take the race lead once it's all said and done.
2 to go still on the racetrack. That's why everyone hasn't doubled up quite yet. They will pick up speed once they get to the stripe. Couple notes, 40 drivers are still, check that, 43 are still running on the racetrack. 38 are on the lead lap. 2 are 1 lap down with a chance to get a lucky dog in Schwartz and Smith. Markey 2 laps down. Campbell 3 laps down. Malillo is also back on course 6 laps down in 43rd position. Ash, Hawkins, and Stewart are your first DNFs of the night, with Steve Rada not able to make the start for this evening's action. Curious to see how this car is going to run, especially with the hard hits it took to the whole right side of the machine, and one of our earlier cautions as we reach 1 to go.
I don't think for our friend Justin Malillo it's going to be all that well, and you'll see he'll come down and take the opportunity along with a lot of drivers who have been a part of some of the early attrition in this race to fix some damage. And that was the thinking behind this competition caution, was making it 2 laps long so that anybody that did have damage that they wanted to repair, that they would have the opportunity to do so. So 1 to go this time by. And again, we'll let those cars try to fix all the damage that they can. Obviously, Malillo running several laps down as it is right now, so he's just out here riding around and hoping for some more wrecks. Well, for him personally, I don't think as the admin and the founder of FTF, I don't think he wants to see a junk fest, but I think, you know, he wants to be selfish, and if a couple other cars can hand him a couple spots here, I think he'll take it.
See what happens here. Your top 10 recap again. Kyle Riley, who has not yet pit at all this race. Now on about 17 lap old tires, Naraki Columbia also stayed out with the strategy call. Columbia, mind you, with rear end damage from one of the earlier caution flags. First drivers on tires are Reynolds, Hawkin, Justice, Mercurio, Gary, Cook, and Cozy Jr. inside the top 10. Also of note, Max Brady, who's pit twice in this race, plus 19 since his stop. Ryan Williams deep in the field in 21st is a plus 16, as well as Daniel Day, who started at the very tip of the field at the LRN near shotgun. The 61 car in 28th plus 16. As we get ready to double them up, Blake, your expectations with 32 to go.
Well, we only have 3 at the front of the field. Andrew Schwartz elected to come down pit road that last time, so we're going to have 3 cars up here that are trying to make it here. I think you just have to try and run behind Ryan Naraki if you're any of these drivers up front, because obviously Riley stayed out. He's still on his original set of tires, so if this thing really gets, if we get a lot of cautions, Riley could be in a good spot here to have some fresher tires and make up some positions on what he had earlier. But right now, I think you're just going to have to ride behind Naraki because he has the fresh tires, get through turn 1, and then obviously past that, just find the correct opportunity to pass him, whether it's through the inner loop or the carousel. But either way, it's going to be interesting to see because these guys right behind him, they're aggressive and, you know, they want to sort these things out for themselves. So we'll see if Riley, Naraki, or any of these guys can hang on to the lead and which of our fast drivers is able to emerge and gain that track position quickly.
Ready to go back to green after the competition caution. We're back underway. Naraki with a better start. Riley not able to get going. Reynolds already flying. Justice already clear of the inside line. Hard send by Hawkin. 3 wide trying to get around Columbia and company.
Well, and there you see Riley stacking things up on the bottom side. Justice wanted to go low, but you're going to have to go around the outside of Riley as Blake Reynolds is able to scurry away. He's already up to the back bumper of Ryan Naraki as they head to the top of the S's. Riley free falling through the field on those old tires. They're able to sort it out. Here comes Derek Justice. He's now going to look to the bottom. 3 wide. They're going to head to the inner loop. Is this going to work? Who's going to back out of it? Justice and Naraki make contact as they head through the bus stop.
And Naraki able to hold on to it. Near contact behind Hawkin. Back single file. Cozy Jr. hit from behind by Mercurio. And this is given a buffer for Justice by about half a second. Just about everybody able to make it through the bus stop. Max Brady, the only driver to have trouble and lose positions and get more damage. He's still back going, was in 20th. 2-3 wide behind him still as Reynolds now leads by 7/8 tenths of a second as the pack is still not done.
Well, and that's what I said initially, that Blake Reynolds was in a fantastic position to make up spots because he wasn't going to be trapped behind Riley, and he got by Naraki early enough that he was able to get out there. Justice and Naraki make contact, so that's going to hurt the Baskin-Robbins Toyota, but perfectly executed restart there by Blake Reynolds is going to give him back the race lead. And of course, you know, the rest of these drivers are going to have to try and make their way forward. Kane Cook has a little more damage on his machine, but he's still going to try to get back up front. So the chaos from that restart starting to sort it out, and now he can finally race it out from here.
Yeah, he had some left side damage. He was asking Michael Cozy Jr. about the damage if it was on the back. Kane, hate to tell you this, you now have right side damage. You didn't have it on the left before. Let's put it that way, as he's still in line for about 7th. 1 car behind them nearly missed the line, and 1 car's around it, Sean Butler. Several other cars spinning, coming out of the inner loop, scattered around the racetrack. That's David Schoenhaus also involved. Caution is out.
And how things change so quickly here as Sean Butler gets turned around in a wreck that looks very reminiscent of what Dylan Smith experienced here, but obviously not as hard of contact through here into the Armco barrier for Sean Butler as it was for Dylan Smith. We'll take a look right here. It's going to be this traffic right in front of them. Ryan Naraki still falling through the field. Dylan Alt gets a little loose. That causes Butler to check up. You see, he's able to get it locked down pretty well, and then well after this wreck, Schoenhaus just gets punted into the tire barrier behind him. He gets some damage out of that, and that's going to be enough to trigger the caution flag. Rich Jameson, who has not had a night to remember here, he gets involved in it as well. After being involved, the 0-1, oh man, Rich Jameson just plows into the back of David after he already got plowed. So unfortunate for that Splash and Go Graphics Toyota, gets plowed twice in the same incident, and that's going to be heavy damage for both him and Rich Jameson.
Not the night he was looking for, let's put it that way. And we talked about was looking okay so far, had a bit of damage, yes, but kept it fairly clean. That's now changed after an incident involving 7+ cars and the mid-pack of the field scattered all across the racetrack. Some of the drivers involved: Brown, Schildhaus, Frisch, Brinker, Harlow, Sherman, as well as a couple others scattered through in the track blocker you see here. And for some of these drivers, you have to wonder, did they see what was happening in time? It looked like maybe just a couple seconds for Schildhaus to react, let alone anyone else.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. It's just so hard to see up here. We'll take a look at Schildhaus's view from this. Again, this wreck is going to happen well in front of him. He gets checked up. He doesn't really have anywhere to go. He gets run into behind once, and then you think you're out of it. And then pow, right in the kisser again. So unfortunately for David, not the night that he was looking for. There was really nowhere to go for him. They just checked up so suddenly, so I almost don't blame Schildhaus there for getting involved. But you see the 86 here, cars were just scattered everywhere, and I mean, he that's just a bad guessing game. He thought, well, I'm gonna try to get some spots here around the outside, and then, you know, the path clears and there's a car right where he was trying to go on the high side there. But again, this shakes things up strategy wise, and I go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier there, Justin, with Kyle Riley, who has not pitted yet. So he has the opportunity here, if we get a couple cautions, to really have fresh tires throughout this entire race. So he has more freedom here to kind of pick and chooses when he wants to pit, if we're going to see some more caution flags here.
As well as be more comfortable on the fuel to get to the end as well without trying to save.
Yeah, he'll just be able to go full out, and you know, obviously we have a lot of drivers who are going to be fixing damage the rest of the way too. So a lot of freedom for that Outback Steakhouse Toyota. He's going to come down pit road this time. I don't imagine we'll see a lot of drivers at the front of the field come down pit road, but might as well. He's got some tires in the bag. Why not use it?
It's the cars who pit: Riley, Brinker, Frisch, many of the others involved in the trouble. Williams, who was able to escape through the middle just barely. A couple other drivers like Day and company electing to take tires and or top off on the fuel to be comfortable to get to the end here. Approaching 28 laps to go, as you see Day just so happens to have one of the first pit stops at the end of the pit lane. Keep in mind this is a tough pit lane because it's basically downhill almost for some of these cars. A couple drivers in the downhill portion after the start and finish line have overran their boxes trying to slow down today.
Well, that's just something you always see here at Watkins Glen. It's all for the drivers up front too. The downhill gets more progressive the closer you get to the exit of pit road. So that's always something, especially if you're one of these front few cars where, you know, that downward angle is more than it is anywhere else. As you can even see kind of the slope right there. Not as much in the back of the field. If you qualify around 25th, 28th, you're not really having to deal with it. But it is something that you kind of have to watch for, especially on a pit road. You go 35 miles per hour. You think the car can get slowed down pretty quickly, but it's not as easy, not always as easy as it looks.
Dorman, meanwhile, having some trouble with the pit boxes. He had trouble finding his stall. Now he's having trouble figuring out the gearing as he sorts himself back out. Back rolling once again as the rest of the field's at the other half of the racetrack still. At the moment, coming up to 28 laps to go. Derek Justice in second behind Blake Reynolds, Hawkins, Gary Cozy Jr., Mercurio, Cook, Alt, Kraus, and Naraki inside the top 10. We're hearing it was a stall issue for the car you've seen stopped on the pit road in Dorman. Once again, the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics. Splash and Go Graphics is your source for custom racing designs. You can find them on Facebook at Splash, the letter N, Go Graphics, all one word. Once again, Splash and Go Graphics. Just about all set to get back under green with 28 laps to go. It's been an intriguing one so far, Blake.
Oh, it certainly has, and it's even going to get more intriguing. We have some new players at the front of the field that have slowly moved their way forward. You mentioned Tyler Gary. Michael Cozy is now up into the top 5, so we'll have some new players up here to battle with the likes of Reynolds and Justice here as we take the green flag.
How will Reynolds and Justice like their new playmates? We're about to see if they are going to have the kitty gloves or the boxing gloves out. Reynolds has been known to back it up. This time he goes green. Lots of cars bumping and banging. Damage to the back end for Hawkins with contact with Cozy Jr. We're back on our way as they're 2-3-1 into turn 1 and 2 again.
And is this going to work? Hard braking zone. A couple drivers locking it up. Benjamin Fanning was one of them. And one driver is around it is Michael Frisch here on the exit of turn 1. He's able to get it out of the way, though. Sitting dead, stopped in the middle of the racetrack. Jake Pullen has some heavy damage. And Frisch, it looks like, is going to be able to scurry away. But we stay green flag here as they work it up into the inner loop.
Good start for them up at the front, but this is what happened at the back of the field. You see now on your screen. Frisch was involved in the last caution, mind you, and had some technical issues, and that didn't help.
No, it certainly did not, but up front, change for the race lead through the S's. Derek Justice made a power move on the outside of Blake Reynolds through the S's. An incredible move for the Baskin-Robbins Toyota. He'll snatch away the race lead from Blake Reynolds. He hits the rumble strips, and again, we talk about it, how important this track position is. These drivers, they've traded wins back and forth this season. 7 for Derek Justice, 5 for Blake Reynolds, and with how competitive both these drivers are, this track position is going to mean a lot for Justice. He's in control of the race. He gets to kind of not block, but you know, he just gets that track position, is able to hold off Reynolds if he makes a mistake and whatnot. So good to see the driver, the Baskin-Robbins Toyota, out there if you're a Derek Justice fan.
He's actually running as well, part of North Force in the Road to Pro campaign this season. Trouble Naraki in the S's, the O2 machine. Still staying green for now. Everyone else has been able to get through. He's been able to tow his car off the track. Naraki's strategy call not working out as the caution is now out as more wrecks in the backstretch. Several drivers in the 20s just wrecked.
Oh, there's a big wreck here, Justin, and again, that's a product of that wreck that happened through the S's as Naraki was flipping here through the S's. A couple drivers made contact. They're all checking up at the end of the S's, and then all of a sudden you have more trouble here on the back straightaway. So again, a lot happening here. Pretty interesting race here at Watkins, Glen, and we'll sort things out here in a second and show you what happened.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. We mentioned Naraki had trouble before this. This bottled them up right there. That's Wetz. And a 3 wide as well with Riley, as several drivers hit the Armco barriers trying to avoid the 6 in the middle of the track. And that led to the rest of the car spinning down the straightaway into the inner loop.
And you see Kyle Riley again. He's one of those drivers who was on fresh tires, so he's just trying to stuff it up the middle. He's on, he's going fast, getting everything he can. They're able to make it through that wreck, and then you see kind of a second wreck happen. We'll ride on board here. This 34 of Travis Brown. So Riley and them get together. They're all spinning. He's able to make it through. No, just picks it incorrectly, and then there's still cars just piling in through the accident there. So again, the one thing about Watkins Glen here, Justin, you see those walls, those guardrails, they just close this racetrack in so much, so he made a commitment to go high, and there's not much higher he can go without running into the wall. And he just, it's a lot of a guessing game, and he guessed incorrectly there, and unfortunately that'll tag another couple drivers in it.
Well, there is moon vision. Fortunately, I was hoping for x-ray vision. As we look at Andrew Schwartz, he's going as slow as possible, just surveying the field and saying, I hope there's more modifieds here for me to bring my Mountain Dew can to the front of the field again, maybe. He was able to avoid it all and gained a couple drivers to his class as well as a result.
Class racing, wouldn't that be something? We have about 50 drivers out here. We could get multiple classes out here if we really wanted to. You see a nice drive there out of the 52. We'll ride on board with him and see how he made it through this accident. Benjamin Fanning approaching here into the inner loop. And again, he was one of those drivers that from the very beginning of that restart had a lot of issues locking up in the middle 3 wide, but was able to make it work out. And we'll just continue on here. It's been difficult here for a lot of these guys, but you even look up front here, Justin. How about who's moved up into second after a little bit of pit stops? Tyler Gary has moved up into the second position.
talk about that in a moment as we look at Shieldhouse one last time from this angle. He was the furthest back from this. He's going full speed, then told us the caution is out. That's where you see the RPM start to drop in the shift. And then he finds out, oh, hey, there were 3-4 cars stopped on the track and just, again, waves goodbye with the parade wave. With that, halfway this time by on the racetrack. We'll go through the pit stops in just a moment because we're already doubled them up. The drivers who pit under this caution flag, Blake Reynolds among them, Kane Cook, several others have elected to take service right at the midway point of this race. Justice in control of the field for the first time tonight. Tyler Gary to the outside along his right. Row 2 is Hawkin and Mercurio, Cozy Jr. in row 3, Kraus and Harlow in row 4, Rice and Henderson round out your top 10. Looking on board as we're ready to get back underway. This is from Kraus to the restart zone. Green flag is out, we're underway.
And a nice launch there from Derek Justice. He's able to get single file. Mercurio got a little bit of a better beat on it than Tyler Gary as they'll work it down here into turn 1. Once again, is there more carnage happening in the back of the pack? It looks like 4 now. They're going to be clean. They're able to sort it out. Oh, but Ryan Williams nearly got shot to the outside here as they make it through the X's. That's right around where Blake Reynolds is running, so he's going to have to make quick work of this traffic.
Front of the field has been able to get single file, but as we talked about, many of your front runners now have fresher tires and are good to go on the fuel in the 20s right now. Like Blake Reynolds is already up to 19th. Here's an onboard with him, and take a look, especially on the entry speed, how much more grip and confidence he's being able to have in these sections right here.
Well, and he decided to take the risk with this caution that, you know, he thought he only needs one more set of Goodyear tires to try and get through the second half of this race, and you can just see right there, even down the straightaway. Obviously, Reynolds not nearly as damaged as a lot of the drivers. He's going to have to battle through up here through the field, but obviously the tires are going to make a significant difference as well. And there's just, you know, there's a skill gap there that Reynolds is just so good here on these road courses. He's going to make it look relatively easy. He restarted all the way back in 24th. 1 lap in. How many cars did he pass? He already passed 7 cars up to the 17th position. So the Coca-Cola Chevrolet making quick work of these guys through traffic.
Cook also already up to 13th side by side through the S's, though. This is up the road from Cozy Jr. That's Alt into the Armco as Winfell 8820 all over the back bumper of Alt, giving him a shot as they're now 3 wide. That is Kraus cutting his way through the grass as Cozy Jr. pulls the ejector seat.
Oh, and Dylan Alt almost hit the wall, but he's going to lose control. What a slide. What a save. He's still saving that race car.
How in the world did he hold on? I'm not quite sure. But I think there's going to be a couple drivers upset here, like Kraus. The Spark VR machine nearly fed him the fender that time. Here's Mercurio now into the fight for P3 on the track, mind you. P4, rather.
And Alt doing all he can to protect this track position. I don't know how he saved that. He was drifting all the way. He nearly hit the wall on the right side of his door, entering the bus stop, which is just something you never see. Gets it off in the grass. The rear tires are smoking the entire time, even through the carousel. And somehow he is able to keep it going straight and save that SPG Toyota. So shout out to Dylan Alt. That was a great piece of driving. But you got to say, Justin, like you were going to mention, I don't think Philip Kraus or Brian Mercurio want to wait for him to wheel it through there again.
Absolutely, especially look how much time they've lost to Hawkin on the racetrack. That is at least 10 car lengths they've lost at this point. Well, Justice, he's still being hounded for the race lead. Tyler Gary right behind him, and keep in mind, these drivers on much older tires compared to, say, a Cook or a Reynolds, they're still going to be somewhat tight on the fuel, even with some saving here as you look from the inside of Tyler Gary.
Oh, certainly so. You're going to have to worry about fuel here. We talked about that, you know, going from the beginning of the competition caution all the way through the completion of this race. It's something you're going to have to definitely watch. And as we can see, they're up over 2 seconds over the rest of the field. So not doing a whole lot of tire saving right now is Derek Justice or Tyler Gary. So that is one thing we'll definitely have to keep our eye on as we're not even at 20 laps to go yet.
Jonathan Palmieri, by the way, also went off towards the final corners in the sand trap. dropped outside the top 10 as a result. He's been shuffled behind many of the drivers on the fresher tires. As you see, Cozy Jr. is holding on to P7 after that checkup effect with Alton Company. Evan Rice is behind him. The next car behind is Kane Cook on the racetrack. Coming up to 21 laps to go as things have now started to calm down. We've crossed the halfway point of tonight's race. Let's take the time to bring you the iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on the virtual tracks all around the world. iRacing is home to a wide variety of officially sanctioned series, with iRacing from the Australian Supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, World of Outlaws, and more. Falling on board with the man in second spot behind a race leader, Derek Justice. He has a 0.4 of a second advantage for the final corner, coming to 21 laps to go this time by, with Gary in second spot. Brandon Hawkins in P3 was the quickest in the top 5 last time by, with Dylan Owen and Brian Mercurio rounding out the top 5. Philip Kraus is in P6 with Michael Cozy Jr., Evan Rice, Kane Cook, and Blake Reynolds rounding out your top 10, Blake.
As Blake Reynolds moves into 10th, 11th will actually be Arnold Columbia as timing and scoring will reset. 12th is Roswell Harlow in a car that looks like it should not be running in the 12th position. Kyle Riley in 13th. Elliot Henderson runs in the 14th spot. 15th, sliding off the racetrack. Actually give it to Gary Waterworth as he moves his way by Benjamin Fanning, who runs in 16th. 17th is Ryan Williams in the Bell South Mobility Chevrolet. 18th is Keith Sherman. 19th is Evan Brinker. And rounding out the top 20 is now Michael Frisch.
Positions will continue to cycle because Pandesio, who is in 21st, just hit the Armco barrier. Hagenstein right behind him in 22nd. Day in 23rd. Dylan Smith still running in 24th position, with Butler in 25th, Poulin in 26th, Cosmin Yoshino in 27th. His spotter is jumped off the stand. Casey Nemitz in 28th, Jonathan Primeri 29th, and Andrew Schwartz currently rounds out your top 30 on the track.
31st is Adam Cadole. 32nd, David Schildhouse. 33rd is Robert Dorman. 34th is Max Brady. 35th goes to Andy Margot, and he rounds out the cars that are on the lead lap. 36th to Chris Wetz. 37th, Ethan Murkey. 38th is Mike Campbell. 39th is Travis Brown, and rounding out the top 40 out of this event is Ryan Naraki.
Lots of drivers involved in incidents, to say the very least, as well as Justin Malil. He's still running. He stopped at the bus stop to let everybody go as he was getting lapped. Rich Jameson is done. Franklin Ash done. Craig Hawkins done. Nate Stewart was done early on. Steve Rana did not make the start. This concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. More than 170,000 drivers on the iRacing service and more than 80 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from. iRacing is the original esports racing game. For more information, visit iRacing.com today. 19 laps to go this upcoming time by. Justice leads by just about a second or so, but Hawkins is coming in quick. He was a full second quicker than the race leaders last time by.
No doubt about it. Brandon Hawkins is on the march, starting to do a little bit to run down Tyler Gary, despite some of the damage on the nose of his TWB Incorporated Chevrolet. You see a little bit of a crinkle there in the nose, but it has not slowed Brandon Hawkins a bit right here. The other thing we have to look at, Justin, is Blake Reynolds, who is slowly making his way through the field. Actually, not quite as fast as I thought he would be trying to make his way up through the field. Of course, he's going through traffic a little bit, but only a 1/10 of a second quicker than Justice last time, and you don't necessarily see a whole lot of traffic in front of Blake Reynolds right now. So perhaps those fresh tires not paying off as much as some of these crew chiefs were thinking that they would.
For now, that's the main key. Remember, Reynolds, the fastest lap of the race, a 1:11.633 earlier on. Kane Cook's also following suit. But here is Hawkins. He's ready to pounce to try and get himself up to P2. A couple car lengths back for the spot as now Gary's lost touch to Justice.
And Justice is pulled away as it looked like Tyler Gary may have run the tires off of that Toyota, and Brandon Hawkins is going to be saying thank you very much as he pulls up to the back of him within about a car length right now. They'll work it around this time by. They'll approach lap 33 of 50. However, a bit of a slip up from Justice right there will cost him a little bit of time across the stripe. Gary and particularly Hawkins was 3/10 faster.
Caution. About 19th on back. Several drivers involved. Smith, a couple other drivers involved. And you'll see a modified graveyard once again. Smith again demolished. This is the run up towards the final corners. Off the corner exit was the result. Butler, Day making contact, forced a checkup effect with the 82 and company.
Oh, man, you're about to see a violent wreck that is reminiscent of Jeff Gordon here all those years ago, hitting that tire barrier and flying across the racetrack. You see Benjamin Fanning, nowhere to go, comes right across the racetrack. And boy, if that doesn't remind you about that day that happened about, let's call it 10 years ago or so, I don't know what will. That was a classic, hitting the tire barrier. Boom! What a great shot right there, and just right across the racetrack and hitting a couple of innocent bystanders was Benjamin Fanning.
Mike Campbell has also parked the car after this incident. Here's a look from Smith over the text chat in Sim. He says the car is now killed after that huge shock to the race car.
I have no doubt about it that actually happened, and that was actually the race in 2009. That happened. Yeah. So I'll correct myself right there. It was about 10 years ago or so. I'm not gonna say that, but that scary crash, it was Sam Hornish Jr. and Jeff Gordon who were involved in that, and I don't know, Benjamin Fanning gave me flashbacks to seeing that Mobil 1 Dodge just flying across the racetrack and Gordon nowhere to go.
A wild incident, say the very least, and something that happened a couple other times in real life when you think about it, but still lined up, still lot to go, 17 laps to go. Well, side by side, you're watching Podium Esports and SDN Racing for coverage of the FTF Grand National Series, presented by Splash & Go Graphics.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead.
Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett low. 4 wide at the stripe. For all his work here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
Back live from the virtual Watkins Glen International for coverage of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash & Go Graphics on Podium Esports and SDN Racing. Justin Prince, Blake McCandless with you, with Ryan Bauer in the director's seat for tonight. All visuals provided by Zach Johnson. Again, broadcast booth powered by TopFlightPC.com. Coming to 16 to go, 1 to go signal this time by doubling up inside the inner loop and through the carousel this time by. It's going to get intriguing because we were talking about Blake Reynolds not picking up as much time as we thought. Looking like he may have saved tires. He stayed out with Roswell Harlow, who pit a couple laps ago.
And you almost can't blame Harlow. You really only have 1 set of tires left, and you got to think in the last 15 laps, you may want that at some point. So Harlow being kind of forced through strategy to stay out here. As you take a look at that race car, not going to have all the speed up here up front, and we saw what happened last time with Kyle Riley and Ryan Naraki. It really shook things up in the back of the pack. We also have to think of Blake Reynolds, another driver who we obviously know is awfully quick tonight, but now is going to be behind on his tire cycle. He's on old tires. Every other driver in the field came down and got Goodyear Eagles put on their race car. So Reynolds is going to have to do a lot to try and hang on here. He gets control of the restart, but this thing can get crazy here.
Keep in mind, Reynolds only with one set remaining, much of the field with one set remaining. Cook is out of tire sets in P10. He elected to back out of the strategy that he was on with Reynolds. All set to go into the restart zone. Deep wait for Reynolds. Back underway. 3 wide behind him as several cars going to the grass trying to get around to stack up.
And that's Kane Cook, who's going to bounce all the way to the outside. They're 3 wide now for second. They're leaning on each other as Brandon Hawkins, they're able to sort it out. Dylan Alt gets shoved up nearly into the grass as they work into the S's. But here comes the fresh tires around Blake Reynolds.
Oh, Dylan Alt around. Dylan Alt hard into the Armco. We stay green as he stopped outside the racing surface. Top 3 have broken away. Currently in the fight, it's Hawkins in the lead now. Reynolds in second, Justice in third. The modified in fourth. Kane Cook is coming in quick to join them as Justice nearly hits the back end of Reynolds.
And Reynolds lost the race lead there through the S's from Brandon Hawkins, and it's pretty evident that those fresh tires that the rest of the drivers around him have are not going to pan out for him. So Reynolds is going to need a caution as he drives off. Derek Justice drives off in the grass, and somehow they keep it on the racetrack. An incredible job by both those drivers who nearly hit the tire barrier. Kane Cook is not wasting any time. He goes by Derek Justice on the inside. They nearly bang doors here as they head into the final quarter. They do touch. Kane and Cook, they save it. Wow. Justice and Cook made contact. What a save there by Kane Cook, who threw it in hard there on the bottom.
Also trouble behind. Daniel Day has had to come down to the pit lane due to trouble. We stay green as well as Cook's been shuffled as a result of that back to P5. His car's been treated like a battery ram. Philip Kraus looking to follow that machine right now. Right behind him in P6, +3 from his starting position as you see on the bottom side of your screen, and quickly gaining some time on the cars in front.
Well, it helps when, everybody's beating each other up here at the front of the field, but a nice job there. Again, that was a quality save there from Cook. A nice job there from Derek Justice, who's got a little bit of damage on the right side of his door on his Baskin-Robbins Toyota. He's going to have to try and fight through that, but Blake Reynolds has kind of settled out here in the second position. I think Justice is a little bit faster than him, but again, it's just one of those things that Reynolds can hold him off. He does carry enough speed to hold him off. Just not sure how quickly Justice may be able to dispose of him on those old tires. Oh, and Justice left rear in the grass. It's going to cost him some more time.
And allows Tyler Gary now back into the fight for a podium spot. Archie Bargy down the front straightaway once again. Squeeze from Justice. Still even breaking through the gears. Gary nearly hits him. Here comes Kane Cook trying to shove him through. Side by side once again for P3. Justice back on the racetrack. Gary trying to give a little bit of space. Cook hits the curves right behind us and nearly spins it. Will contact as these drivers try and sort themselves out.
And I don't think there's much more room that Gary needs more room. I mean, that was a hard pinch there from Derek Justice. So you can really say the same thing about the contact that they had with Kane Cook, as now Cook gets shoved through the bus stop by Tyler Gary, and Gary's not going to be able to save it. He goes off into the sand trap here. Single car contact, and Gary got a little bit loose as they enter the bus stop, and now it's almost impossible here. You got traffic passing you, trying to get back going on the racetrack. You don't know where to go. Is he going to come back in the middle of traffic? No, he has to wait for nearly the entire field to go around. But, man, these guys are leaning on each other through the late going. And I'll tell you what, Derek Justice is showing a level of aggressiveness that I don't think I've ever seen out of the driver, because the way that he raced Kane Cook and Tyler Gary there, he was not given a lot of room, was Derek Justice, and he's trying to do all he can to protect that third position.
Here's a good reason why you would want to push. Hawkins, the previous time by, set the fastest lap of the race, the first time anyone broke into the 110s. He ran at 1:11 the past time total by, leading by more than 3 seconds. How much time are they losing behind Reynolds? A second a lap right now as Justice nearly hits Reynolds. Going up through the S's once again towards the inner loop. Trying to finally get around the Coca-Cola Cherry Machine defensive line from the 3. Hard squeeze from Justice along the curbs. Reynolds sticks it along the groove. Justice nearly loops it as Reynolds nearly drifts it on the bottom side of the carousel as they both go argy-bargy again door to door.
And again, this is where Justice, I mean, you can't give more room.
Caution.
Oh, man, and we're going to have to see the honor system, who comes out front there on this this caution flag, but oh man, Derek Justice is racing these guys within an inch of their life, and because these guys are eNASCAR Coke talent, they are able to hang on. As you see the mangled car, the 46 machine, kind of trying to get his way out, obviously was a part of that last incident. That's Robert Dorman and that Exalta machine that we'll try to have to sort out. But man, Justin, the level of aggressiveness is just insane tonight. Ah, man, it's really exciting, but something I didn't think we'd see racing for second and third.
Now, that car you see on your screen was the trigger for the caution flag, by the way. This was on the entrance to the S's. We'll take a look because we've seen the damage already in that machine. It was a rough start for Dorman, mind you, through that lap. Missed the exit, Blake, but once he missed that exit, it's like something broke trying to straighten it out. Wobbled back and forth, hit the Armco barrier, then stopped in the middle of the racetrack. One car hits him. That was Gary, and then trying to get himself out of the way, several cars ended up colliding into him, including one other at the very minimum with severe damage.
And that's the case. I think you have to throw the caution there. As you see, Gary tried all he can. Just bad luck for Gary after he made contact with Kane Cook in a really vulnerable spot in the S's, not able to make it work. And then, of course, he's just trying to make up spots. He's already got damage on his machine. And there you see, again, nowhere to go here at Watkins Glen. The 46 bounces hard off the guardrail and right into the middle of the racing surface. And there you see the 53 almost get a part of it. Nice job checking up there from the UFI Mustang, but just not a lot of room out here at Watkins Glen.
There were 2 other cars also involved. You see in the backdrop just at the start of the S's, and also part of the reason for the caution flag. That Malone had the Dodge. Ethan Murkey was involved in trouble, as well as Day in the 61. Those 2 drivers ended up also hitting the car stopped in the middle of the racetrack. You see them right here on your screen, trying to sort each other out. They're single file, and then right there, both of them hit it hard in the middle of the racetrack, and that, in total, is the definitive reason why it was justified for the caution flag with at least 4 cars involved.
Well, and the problem here, Justin, is that, you know, everybody's thinking, well, are they just going to go and arc or break their way through these wrecks? Because that's what it looks like here on the broadcast, and obviously, you know, they're not slowing down, but you have to think of the caution rules that they run here at FTF for the road courses. It's very important for these guys. Obviously, if it's just a single car spin, they're not going to throw the yellow, so if you can guess correctly, keep your speed up, and get by a car that's sitting in the middle of the track, you're not going to throw a yellow, and you're not going to have that time loss, but obviously you run that with the risk of, you know, getting taken out and getting involved in an accident like that. So it's such a difficult balance for these drivers to strike because, you know, typically you see a car sitting, you know a caution's going to come out. And now we see pit strategy. Blake Reynolds comes in, and there's not a lot of takers behind him.
Cook actually came in again, so may have on one of the caution flags taken fuel only, hence why you would come in at this point. Harlow, Brinker, and a couple others also followed suit. But on the bottom side of your screen, you see that schedule. As you can see, after tonight's race, you're on SDN and Podium Esports, the next 2 races are going to be hectic to decide who makes the playoffs on the right side of the screen. Daytona on the bumpy version. For those wondering, what do you mean the bumpy version? Prior to about 2011, there was a bumpy version of the circuit that was circa 2007 that was much rougher compared to the repaved version of the racetrack that happened after the fire that happened with Jet Driver in the Daytona 500 at the start of last decade. That in turn means it's going to be difficult to drive at that super speedway, potentially for many of these cars. Then you have the difficult track in its own, the place they call Too Tough to Tame, Darlington Raceway, on September the 5th. So 2 very difficult races and 2 tough ones to try and win back-to-back to see who can advance into the postseason for the 12 drivers for the playoffs, to see who can battle for that opportunity.
Well, again, this field is so competitive, and I just think you have star-studded fields. Again, we've had 2 drivers win 12 of the races this season, so I think mostly what we're looking for in this battle for the bubble is that points battle. And right now, I mean, obviously, when we came into tonight, Ryan Naraki was +8 to the good, Sean Butler -8 to the bad. Well, right now, obviously, Naraki is out of this race all the way back in 42nd, and Sean Butler is in 9th. So it's going to be a monumental gain for Sean Butler to try and work his way into the playoffs on points. You see right there his a little bit of damage on his Pennzoil TA machine, but is just doing enough to finish up here around the top 10. That'll be solid enough to get him into the playoffs. And then, of course, you know, like you mentioned, Justin, with all the chaos and just so much on the line these last couple of races, you do have to think about, you know, Butler could go on the defensive if we're somehow able to get a new winner that's outside the current playoff structure. So it just makes it really interesting for these guys winding down here. Points and wins and just everything that goes into it. It makes these last couple of races really intense, especially in the mid part of the pack.
Don't forget as well about the playoffs on FRN and LSR TV, Las Vegas, Nashville, the Roval, Homestead, North Wilkesboro, Martinsville, Phoenix on the calendar. Once again, I'd like to remind you that this series is presented by theracingexperts.com, your place for NASCAR, eNASCAR, and other motorsports news. Visit racingexperts.com today. 10 laps to go this time by. Everyone all geared up for what could be an intense start. Earlier jump for Hawkins. We're back underway. Once again from Watkins Glen International.
Back underway, and Blake Reynolds is going to go to the bottom. 4 wide as they head into 1. David Schulthouse is going to lock him up. They somehow make it by. Schulthouse gets tagged, and he's going to go around here in turn 1 off the racing surface. There's a couple of
Caution
others coming, and caution flag is going to result out of that accident. David Schulthouse gets tabbed from behind. He'll collect the 33 who was trying to make his way by. That's Adam Cadole. Kane Cook almost in it. He gets the rear bumper taken off. They keep crashing up almost into the S's. Andrew Schwartz is in it once again. And it's all because of the fresh tires. You see Blake Reynolds right there. He's going to go to the bottom. Schulthouse sees him. He locks it up a little bit. They get a little loose. Maybe a little contact there with Schulthouse, and that's just enough to upset his race car. So just, again, Blake trying to do all he can to make up as many spots as possible. I don't know if there was contact there, maybe just a little bit here, but these restarts with these fresh tires get so aggressive. You just have to go when you can.
You see right there, that cut to the right ended up being the ending up cause for that massive stack up behind. As you see Day and several other cars involved. Once again, here's another look. This is on board from Day.
And Day does a nice job just working his way through the bottom part of the racetrack, and that just ended up being the right place to go.
Almost. Because he also then got hit at the last second, and the front nose crushed in by the 67, as you've seen off the pinball effect. You'll see him once again just about get through. Looks like open space, gets hit on the left side, and everyone tried to go to where he was. The Mountain Dew machine also tried to go where he was as he was spinning to the Armco.
Well, and that's what I saw. I saw a clean racetrack in front of the 61, and I was like, oh, well, sure enough, he gets through that wreck. Well, guess what? You don't when you get tagged in the right rear and there's just cars dodging everywhere, people going low to miss other spinning cars. You see Schwartz right there. He has an opening, and immediately a car just cuts across his nose. He has nowhere to go. He thinks he's by everything. Get by the 33. Oh, look, there's fresh space, and then there's no space. So it's just so hard here for these drivers. And again, we talk about, Justin, I think these drivers are just so much less likely to lift when they don't know for certain if the caution flag is going to come out when something happens. They don't want to lose the track position. They want to keep their momentum up, so it just makes it that much more difficult to slow down. I've seen a lot of these drivers. I've raced with them a lot. There's not too many guys that are just going to plow through wrecks like they're doing tonight, and I just think because of the fact that you don't know if the caution is going to come out, it's making these drivers a little more aggressive and making it more of a guessing game when you're trying to dodge these spinners across the racetrack.
After that massive crash again at the back of the field, several drivers involved. 31 cars are currently scored on the lead lap, but 26 are currently at the pacing line. The rest of the field is still getting damage repairs at the moment. To touch upon your top 10, it's Hawkins, Justice, Mercurio, Kraus, Cozy Jr., Butler, Rice, Riley, Columbia, Henderson now rounds out the top 10 at plus 11 for the graphics designer, by the way, who's quietly been able to cut his way through the field. As several of the air cars you see still finishing up the repairs with their duct tape to try and get to the finish of this race. We still have 8 laps to go with 1 to go this time.
Well, I think you're at the point now, Justin, with everything that's happened right now, with all the cautions that we're seeing, I think we may see a couple more. If you're the drivers out front right now, these are the tires you're going to end this race on. I just don't see a point in this race where you're going to be able to trust that you can come down pit road, not lose enough track position, and have enough time and enough green flag racing to get back to the front. So I don't know, because Blake Reynolds, obviously, he's the first driver that's on the freshest tires in the field. He's in 11th. If he can make some big moves here into turn 1, he can get up to about 7th or 8th and try to chase down these guys. But I just don't know how much green racing we're going to get for him to try to make those tires work. We'll just have to see if they sort it out again. There's so many cars running up here in the top 15, Justin, that just don't look like 15th place cars. We'll see if we add a couple more to that total before it's all said and done.
There's plenty of cars who look like they match at Martinsville rather than Watkins Glen. Let's put it that way. 8 to go. Great restart for Hawkins. Middle of the pack, though. Still a hornet's nest. Reynolds once again going 3 wide hard down the bottom side. Contact. There goes Henderson. Henderson hard into the Armco. We stay green as the rest of the field survives.
And that's what we were talking about, single car incident. You don't know if a caution's going to come out. Well, it doesn't there. So if you would have lifted, it obviously doesn't help you. And Reynolds doing everything he can to try and run up here through the S's. He goes around the outside of Evan Rice. He'll look to the bottom of Sean Butler, who's all the way up here in the 6th position. So Reynolds making quick work of these guys. Can he continue to work through as he almost loses? Golly, that car got sideways. Coca-Cola Cherry Machine still looking like he wants to be in the front.
Yeah, getting more and more time. 3/10 behind the next position. More trouble in the carousel this time. Max Brady around. Cosmin Yashino also went off into the grass. Still green as Brady way off the racing surface. An unfortunate day for Max Brady, one of the SPG drivers in tonight's field. Here's a look at what happened as he got door checked into the tires nearly.
And we'll see once again what happened here. We enter the bus stop, and again, I'm curious because Brady carried so much speed off there. It almost looked like they were running the old configuration of this racetrack. So I'm sure he gets a little bit of help from behind. 2 checks up, and he just gets doored twice there by the 2 machine, and there's nowhere that Max Brady could go on that.
The 2 was actually off in the grass there, Blake, in fact. And as we've talked about, grass doesn't have traction here, to say the very least. This is Palmyra.
Or anywhere. Let's just, maybe anywhere.
Yep, right there. Uses Brady to save the car. Still misses the corner. But Brady gets the worst out of it. The right side. Go ahead.
And there's actually one other driver that spun here in the S's, the 63 of Ryan Pandascio. He's actually going to be able to keep rolling here. So once again, another spin, no caution.
So once again, coming to 6 laps to go this time by. Hawkins still up in the front as the fastest car on the track last time by. But remember, Reynolds now has the track position. Justice is keeping him in check as well. There are several drivers who could come away with this win, especially the way this Coca-Cola Cherry Machine is driving. To the inside of Philip Kraus. Off in a turn well once again to try and take away the 4th position. Can he make it stick? Just about gets clear.
And he's going to be able to do so. And despite going through all that traffic, Blake Reynolds about 0.4 of a second faster that last time by, which if you're going to take 3 or 4 a lap, that's easily within distance for Reynolds to try and make something happen here in the closing laps. It's just how quickly he can try and get around Mercurio, try to get around Justice. That's what it's all going to come down to, because obviously they have the pace, but you just see how much faster Reynolds is as he's basically able to run qualifying laps here around this Watkins Glen International Speedway.
Here's a look once again from that grouping. This is now the battle for 3rd. Reynolds still 1.5 seconds back. We need a little bit of luck here to close on in as they get ready for the high 5 from the flag stand this time by. That's Mercurio up in front. Reynolds has been the quickest off this corner exit here to make some of his passes down the front stretch. Off into turn 1, he's been bowled under the brakes. And as we come to 5 laps to go, he wants to go into P number 3, the Lowline Racing Machine up on the top, the Team Doing Esports Machine on the bottom. Blake Reynolds now up to third, only 1.35 seconds back.
Well, and that is a huge help right there from not only just Brian Mercurio, but Philip Kraus, who he went by the previous lap. It's just so huge to not have to battle those guys because they can slow each other up so much. But now here comes the difficult part of this march is can he get all the way to the front of the field? Can he get by Derek Justice, who we've seen racing everybody as absolutely close as possible? Justice will actually mess up the bus stop here. Reynolds is going to try and take advantage. He goes all the way to the bottom, all the way on the rumble strips. Power move here from Reynolds. Can he get him off the corner? They'll be side by side, but I like the position the 3 cars in right here.
The thing is, can he stick it on the high side? Justice has the preferred line right here, and Justice has not been quite happy, it seems, with the 3, at least from the outside perspective. Reynolds now makes a bit of door contact at the rumble strips. Justice up the racetrack. Justice shuffled out as Mercurio takes advantage. Reynolds now up to second with 4 to go.
Well, and again, that's, you know, there's a saying in racing, if you pinch, you pay. And, you know, if you put a driver in a situation where they can't mess up even an inch and they end up doing it, I don't know if you even put that on Blake Reynolds. He's just racing hard, and he couldn't have given much more room to the Baskin-Robbins Toyota to try and get by there. So obviously a little bit of chatter over the radio. The 31 wasn't happy about it, but I just don't know if there's much more Blake Reynolds could have done. So now the question, can he run down Brandon Hawken with just about 3.5 laps to do it?
Inside the 4 laps to go window from this point on, keep in mind that will be a factor for potential caution flag periods. But the question is here, Blake, does your namesake counterpoint part, Blake Reynolds, have enough time on fresher tires to get up to Hawkins? It's about a 6-lap difference. Has trouble. Butler spins around from 11th.
Oh, and Butler, he's in a horrible position. He can't get going back straight. And we talked about the points implications. He was just looking to get out of here with a solid day. That is going to allow Ryan Naraki to kind of minimize his loss in the points, allow a couple other drivers to move by. So big moment there for Sean Butler, who just needed to get it home to the finish despite the damage.
So he cycles back on the racetrack in 27th position. But at the end of the racetrack, 3 to go. Gap is still about 1.7 seconds. Only a couple tenths of a second was gained last time by. Swing the question once again, Blake. Does Reynolds have enough time to get up to Hawken?
Well, let's look at the time difference last time. He was quicker, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough to make up a 1.5 seconds over now less than 2.5 laps to go. I think Hawken is just so strong here. And obviously Reynolds did a number on his tires. You see him locking up a couple times there, getting into turn 1 the last time by. I just think getting through the traffic did enough on those tires that Hawken can do enough to maintain his race lead right here.
2 laps to go this time by for Brandon Hawken. Looking at a narrow victory to his cabinet this season. As Reynolds now is within 1.5 seconds once again. Similar distance to what he was in this same sector. Once again, Reynolds looking for what would be a 6th race victory on the campaign. Hawken looking for his 2nd.
Hawken looking for win number 2, and Blake Reynolds looking to get within just 1 win of Derek Justice's leading 7 race total. Reynolds, once again, a 10th quicker that last time, but he has a much higher threshold to go. You see on your screen about 1.4 seconds back is the gap, so I think it's going to take a mistake from Brandon Hawken here for Reynolds to even have a chance to try and run him down.
He has gained, however, a couple tenths this time by. Lost all the time, though, in the carousel as Hawken just about less than a lap and a half away from victory in the red and white number 89 machine. Behind Mercurio, looking to come away with the podium, Justice Kraus rounding out the top 5 as the white flag waits up at the stand this time by. 1 lap to go this time by from Watkins, Glen International and the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash & Go Graphics. 1.17 seconds is now the gap for Hawken.
And Brandon Hawken able to do a number there on that last lap. Can it be enough, though, to hold on? Reynolds hard into the braking zone of 1. They have a little bit of lap traffic that may come up into play here in the S's. It's Justin Malillo will have to keep tabs on that and see if they work their way by that traffic. But Brandon Hawken trying to get his second win of the season, become one of only 5 drivers in the FTF Grand National Series to win multiple times this season.
That would also vault him up in terms of the playoff position and the overall standings from 8th in the locked-in spots for the wins up to as high as 5th. Malillo stops in the bus stop, stays out of the way of the battle for the race win. But final sets of corners, Hawken still leads by about a second over Blake Reynolds.
Second lead, and again, all it's going to take is a mistake, but I think Brandon Hawken has the skill, the talent on these road courses to be able to do it. Brandon Hawken looking for the checkered flag.
And for the second time in 2020, Brandon Hawken will come out of the final corner to take the checkered flag. He wins at Watkins Go International in the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash & Go Graphics. Blake Reynolds second, Mercurio in third, Justice and Kraus round out the top 5. And what was a fantastic race.
A thrilling race there. We saw a lot of beating and banging, and still some drivers trying to limp it home, and some solid points finishes as they continue to cross the stripe and continue to sort things out here in the back of the pack. We mentioned the spin by Sean Butler. He is still...
He's pit.
Yeah, he's not even finished it yet. He's just gonna alt F4 out of this. That's gonna cost him about 5 more points. So Sean Butler not doing himself any favors there, as a couple more lap cars will continue to work their way by. But a lot of drivers here did a lot to just get some solid finishes. How about Ryan Williams, 37th to 10th, despite a lot of the damage he had. Kane Cook rebounds for an 8th place finish. A lot of neat stories. Michael Frisch spun early on. He gets to run P11. Lots of guys made the most of these days and made the most of missing some of the carnage out there.
Yeah, and plenty of drivers, mind you, gained 20-plus positions tonight. And as Brandon Hawken looks to drift his way to celebration time, and severals look to join him, let's take a look at your unofficial race results in tonight's action from Watkins Glen. Brandon Hawken beats Blake Reynolds by 1.145 seconds, with Brian Mercurio rounding out your podium tonight. That was 2.9 seconds behind your race winner. Justice and Kraus round out the top 5, with Michael Cozy Jr. in 6th. Howard Gehrig finished in 7th. Kane Cook, Evan Rice, and Ryan Williams rounded out your top 10 tonight. Here, Blake.
It'll be Michael Frisch, as mentioned earlier, that brings it home in 11th. Kyle Riley finishes up in the 12th position. 13th goes to Gary Waterworth. Quiet but solid day for the driver at number 12. Keith Sherman brings it home in 14th. Jake Woolen in 15th. Evan Brinker brings it home 16th. Roswell Harlow, despite being a modified, in 17th. Arnold Columbia tried some strategy early on. He brings it home P18. Cosmin Yanishu in 19th. And how about it? David Schoenhaus, despite all the carnage he was involved in, still finishes in 20th.
Andrew Schwartz 21st in his modified. Casey Numet in 22nd. Adam Cadell in P number 23. Elliot Henderson involved in an incident in the midway point of the race. 24th is where he finishes. Hagenstein 25th. Amirian 26th. Dylan Smith over the radio saying it's the proudest top 30 in his life. It's 27th in a demolished race car. He finishes in front of Daniel Day, Max Brady, Ryan Penasino among the top 30 finishers and the last drivers in the lead lap play.
That is true. Sean Butler will be scored a lap down as he elected just to pull off the racetrack before he finished. Maybe perhaps a Mark Barton move, not sure, but that'll cost him a couple of positions. He brings it home 31st, officially a lap down. Andy Margot 32nd, Justin Malillo 6 laps down in 33rd, Warren Rosario in 34th, 35th goes to Chris Wetz, 36th Robert Dorman, 37th goes to Ethan Murkey, 38th finishing after looking so strong early in the night was Dylan Alt, 39th goes to Benjamin Fanning, and Rich Jameson rounds out the top 40. 41st will go to Mike Campbell, 42nd Travis Brown, 43rd the driver who was 12th on the playoff grid coming in was 8 to the good. Didn't do himself any favors tonight. He finishes in 43rd. Franklin Ash in 44th. 45th goes to Craig Hawkins. 46th to Nate Stewart. And Steve Rana did not make it to the grid. He finishes up in 47th.
Unfortunate for Rana, decent speed in his experience, but we'll take a step aside. Post-race coverage coming up on Podium Esports and STN Racing for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics. Looking at the shots in the final few laps of tonight's action for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics. As Brandon Hawkins came away with the victory tonight, Justin Prince alongside Blake McCandless with Ryan Bauer in the director's seat for tonight's action on Podium Esports and STN Racing. A lot of strategy came into tonight's race and a lot of attrition, but in the end, Hawkins was able to beat Blake Reynolds by 1.15 seconds. Blake Reynolds now joins us in the broadcast booth after an intense race. Blake, first things first, how are you feeling coming home second tonight here at Watkins Glen International?
Well, I'll take it. I got the playoff points I wanted. Obviously, the win helps, but Brandon Hawkins is a absolute class act, and he is one of my favorite rivals in any league I've ever had, and he's just a lot of fun to race with. I tried a couple different little bits of strategy there, taking tires on certain different cautions and scenarios. Obviously, I was able to still end up getting P2.
Yeah, I was going to ask what came down to some of the decision making, especially to go off cycle to a much of your field on the tire sets.
Well, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to do it. Is that the right answer? I mean, I felt like, yeah, I could stay up here with all these cautions, but I wanted to kind of go off on a different strategy, and then just, I don't know, just go with it. Ended up working. I got my restarts working all good, and yeah, that's how I was able to get up there.
Now, next couple races, going to be Daytona 2007 edition as well as Darlington. Two very intense races for two very different reasons. You're good in terms of points and victories, of course, as we talked about on the broadcast, but lots of playoff points still on the line. Your approach for the final couple races heading into the end of the regular season.
Oh yeah, I look forward to Daytona 07. Last time I raced there, I want to say it was the podium 200, or not the, what was it called? E-Racer.
Yeah,
GG.
Firecracker 400.
Yeah, Firecracker 200. I was not in the 400.
Oh, yes, right. Got bumped out in the qualifying.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm not good enough. So, yeah.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, I ran the 200, and that's what ended up happening there. And before that, I think I ran the I Got Balls 250, and I got a win in that. So, I'm feeling good about it. These Xfinity cars are a lot of fun at the plate tracks, and I'm sure that one will be fun too.
Who do you want to thank for the second place rather tonight?
Well, second places aren't that great, but I'll thank everyone at FTF. This is my favorite league outside of everything else that I run. And then I'll thank my league team owner, Kyle Riley. I'm on Scuderia Meatball Marinara. I think that's the whole name, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, I'll thank Kyle Riley. And then Evan Brinker. I don't know. I just want to thank him, and that's it.
What's your relation to Evan Brinker?
Old PlayStation friend from 2010. Gran Turismo 5, NASCAR The Game 2011. F1 2012 and 2011, all on the PlayStation 3. Finally got him in iRacing. You're going to have to watch out for this kid. He is awesome. He's going to be in the Road to Pro next year, and I think he's finally getting there. He's running really well in FTF. I'm really proud. He's only been in 2 years, I think. Yeah, second year. So I think you should watch out for him in the Road to Pro.
Will do indeed. Thank you very much for the time, though, Blake.
Thank you.
Blake Reynolds coming home in second tonight in the Team Dillon Esports Coca-Cola Cherry Chevrolet. Standing by with the race winner, getting the chance to catch up with the man who took home the victory. Brandon Hawken taking the checkered flag for tonight's action. Blake McCandless is now with Brandon.
And Brandon Hawken, now a two-time winner this season, the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics. And, you know, I have to give it to you, Brandon. There was a lot of strategy going on there at the end, a lot of beating and banging with a lot of those guys that were up front. How were you able to emerge out of all that chaos?
I'm not sure, actually. Yeah, it was a really intense race. Yeah, lots of contact being made, and yeah, strategy at the end I was really worried about because like at FTF I usually choose the opposite of what I should. So yeah, I was happy to pick the right pit strategy there, and man, it was just so much fun there with Derek and Blake and Brian, everybody. Like, yeah, it was just such like we raced hard, but it was pretty clean race. And yeah, I'm just really happy right now because yeah, it's such a tough group of guys.
Well, I was about to say, with how Derek, how Blake have really run away with this season and have accrued all these playoff points. There's a bit of a vault there, kind of in the middle of everything, where there's a lot of drivers that have a couple, 2, 3, maybe up to 10. But this win will give you a lot more playoff points. So, what do you think about that? With instead of being seeded, what potentially may have been about 7th or 8th with just a couple of races to go in this thing. This win is going to do a lot to put you up there in the top 5 in terms of the playoff point total.
Oh yeah, it definitely helps a lot. Like yeah, you'll take points whenever you can get them, and yeah, the road courses have been a strong suit. So yeah, just try to capitalize there when I can, and yeah, I'll just try to improve my oval game a little bit before we go to the next few. But man, yeah, it's just I'm mostly just in it for like just going out, going as hard as I can, just trying to just having fun, but it's really great to be in the playoffs, and if we can just hold on to the top 20 there, I think. So just just super stoked, and I think I'm really excited for the Daytona road course. That should be a lot of fun too.
I was about to say, you come here to this road course, you're obviously doing well. Road America, right up your alley. Oxford Plains, you obviously did well winning the Trophy Dash. I mean, is this just almost a perfect set of tracks here for you?
Yeah, I really like short ovals and road courses. So yeah, the group of tracks we have in this portion of the schedule really suit my driving style. So just gotta I did a lot of practice at Watkins Glen this week, just trying to figure out how to not burn up the rear tires, and I think that helped quite a bit. So I'm just gonna practice a bit more on ovals, see if we can get the long run speed down, and really excited for the next however many races. So it should be a lot of fun.
Well, Brandon, I'll throw the mic to you one more time. I know you're pretty used to doing it by now, but go ahead and give a shout out to everybody on that team that makes it happen.
Well, I'd just like to thank everybody at FTF for organizing all of this. It's a great series they put on. You guys in the booth for the awesome broadcast every time, and it's just like everybody, like Blake had he's such a good he's such a good competitor, and especially when we come to the road courses, it's me and him a lot of the time, and it's just a lot of fun to race with him. So hats off to him, and everybody. It's been a really great half season, I guess, for me. So I'm looking forward to run the rest of the playoffs, and should be a good time.
It certainly should. Well, Brandon, we appreciate you, and obviously a couple good tracks coming up for you, but right before the playoffs get started. We wish you luck, and we'll hope to maybe talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
And that's Brandon Hawkins, driver of the 89, who brings it home in victory lane tonight. Obviously, the man everybody wants to talk to, but we'll go ahead and talk to another driver who had an awfully strong run tonight. Justin Prince is caught up with the driver of the 41. It's Brian Mercurio.
Yes, indeed. And Brian, lots of bumping and banging tonight, but in the end, you scratched and clawed your way to P3 tonight. How are you feeling about how tonight's race went here at Watkins Glen?
I always feel pretty good at the road courses here. I know last week at Road America, kind of goofed on the strategy a little bit. I had to pit for fuel, and unfortunately, I'm not quite the wheelman like Blake was, and I couldn't quite carve my way through the field. He did the same thing tonight, and still got up to P2 just like last week. So to rebound from kind of a disappointing finish, in my opinion, last week, finished top 3 here, I'm very happy with.
Based on what you're seeing from some of your competitors tonight, what would it have taken to try and improve that set performance so it wasn't, so to speak, exactly the same positioning as what you mentioned at Road America?
Oh man, it's just, I've gone toe-to-toe this season with Brandon Hawkins. Me and him were dueling when we ran the Daytona road course about a month ago. So I know it's possible to at least race with him and compete with him, but he's so consistent here at Watkins Glen. I knew it was going to be a real tough challenge, and then I made a mistake coming off the final corner midway through the race and gave myself some pretty bad damage. So I don't like to make too many excuses, but that did definitely help me back just a little bit. So maybe if I had a restart where I was next to Brandon, or maybe started on the left side, I could have at least maybe had a chance to get up to P2, but it was just tough. I was kind of, floating in this zone between Blake and Brandon's pace, and then kind of the guys behind me. So third's just where I ended up.
Next race on the campaign, Daytona 2007 edition. Your thoughts on going there for the second last race of the regular season?
I had a very disappointing opening to the season. My first couple races were really bad, but Daytona was the first race, and everything was kind of downhill from there for the first couple races. So I'm hoping to rebound. I'm technically the most recent winner at Daytona, however, on the road course. And I know this is the bumpy version of Daytona. So, it's not going to be necessarily the racing you see on the smooth Daytona. There's going to be a lot more focusing on making sure you save your tires and working on the handling of your car a little bit more. But I'm looking forward to it here. I know we got a few weeks until the playoffs here begin, so just trying to keep up the good finishes here until then.
Anyone you want to thank for the podium finish tonight?
I want to thank Hawken for still winning after he ran into the back of me when I got damage. Everybody else for keeping it clean for the most part around me. I knew I was fast. I knew I could probably finish in the top 3, and I thought I threw away my chances once I got damaged. So shout out to all the guys over at Low Line Racing, team I run for in Road to Pro, and NIS. I've been doing a lot of road course work this week at the Daytona road course. So kind of getting in that stock cars on the road course kind of mood. It's been a lot of fun this week. So shout out to them for building a good setup. Shout out to all the guys I race with, everybody who puts on these races at FTF, you guys over here doing the broadcast. And just looking forward to the rest of the season.
Congratulations on the third place finish once again, Dr. Bob.
Appreciate it, Justin. Thank you.
That's Brian Mercurio in P3. I'd like to thank him, Blake Reynolds, and Brandon Hawken for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on Podium Esports and STN Racing. Blake, first things first, your final thoughts on how things developed tonight here at Watkins Glen International.
I think we got everything we expected. We got some tire strategy. We had a lot of wrecks early on, and then we had the best of the best up here. Derek Justice, Blake Reynolds, Kane Cook. You name them, Brandon Hawken, all have their opportunity, their time in the sun, and at the end of the day, Hawken had the right strategy, was able to hang on, and it was nice to see those guys who were the class of the field try to make their way up tonight. But we also created a situation for these next couple weeks where the points again are just going to be so narrow heading to the end of this thing. It should make the next 2 weeks especially very exciting.
Both of those specifically on Podium Esports as well. Daytona 2007 edition, Darlington Raceway on September the 5th. Your thoughts on those races as we get ready to see who can make it into that top 12?
Well, we've seen a lot of drivers. We covered the Road to Pro Series race at Darlington, and of course, we're not running in the trucks, we're running the Xfinity cars, but I think you're going to see a lot of the same, just really tight, really difficult to pass, especially with just all the talent you have here at FTF. It's just really hard to try to make your way forward. And with how everyone's going to be even on speed, Darlington is going to be, especially desperation mode. That's the last race before the playoffs, and then Daytona. Obviously, anytime you go to Daytona, it's obviously special. Love going to the old 07 configuration of it, whether it's road course or the oval. Regardless, being able to go there and experience all those bumps and the handling and whatnot, it makes it interesting and can, of course, create a lot of the same chaos we saw tonight.
Absolutely. As you can see the schedule on your screen, remember after that, playoffs go to FRN, NLSR TV, the tracks like Las Vegas, Nashville, the Charlotte Roval, Homestead, North Wilkesboro, Martinsville, and Phoenix. It's not going to get easier to determine who can win a championship in this series. Again, you can catch up with the next race on Podium Esports for this series, FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash & Go Graphics at Daytona on August the 22nd. But an eventful one tonight here on Podium Esports and STN Racing. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in for tonight's exciting action here for what was an intense race at Watkins Glen International. I also thank my broadcast partners tonight, Blake McCandless, as well as the visuals from Zach Johnson and our director tonight, and Zach Bauer. Plenty of upcoming races for Podium Esports in the next couple of days as well. GameWorks Racing League will see themselves go to Bristol. That's at Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/Podium Esports. While on Monday, the Sim 500 Trans Service Cup Series heads to Dover for what is expected to be a challenging race at the concrete confines of the Monster Mile. That starts Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/Podium Esports. Then on Wednesday is a doubleheader as Esports Racing League heads to the Worldwide Technology Raceway on August 19th. That starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/ERL_racing with the Cars Esport Tour. Heading to Martinsville Raceway right after. You can catch that on Podium Esports' Twitch directly. And don't forget as well, on the Tuesday in between all of that, you have the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro Series, where you get to see, for example, the Technical Alliance members and teammates of Blake Reynolds, Brian Mercurio try and lock himself in towards the Wintertime Series, and many other drivers look to try and see if they can get themselves into the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. That all takes place at Texas Motor Speedway once again, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Podium Esports on Twitch. I'd like to thank everyone once again for tuning in for tonight's exciting action. I'd like to also thank the RacingExperts.com and Splash and Go Graphics for sponsoring this series. But for James Pike, for Cisco Scaramouza, for Gary Sexton and John Theodore of Podium Esports, for producer Ryan Bauer, and my broadcast partner once again, and Blake McCandless, I'm Justin Prince. We hope you enjoyed our coverage of round 24 of the FTF Racing League Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics. Good night. Enjoy the rest of your evening.